Just at Tattersalls alone in 1 week last year, his Amo Racing spent nearly 25 million guineas. And that in itself, just a drop in the ocean to what the spend was worldwide, as they sought to become not just an interested party, but something that could challenge a global racing superpower. He's had more trainers than I could list here. He's had his fair share of jockeys as well. He's had lots of opinions on the game. You've often heard him before you've seen him. He's always been colourful. He's always engaged us. He's been against convention in his first love of football. He's been against conventional thinking in horse racing as well. So what does he think now? He is, of course, Amo Racing's Keir Joorabchian. Keir, good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I got to tell you one thing before we start. Michael Bell asked me to see if these croissants were real or not.
Well, you can.
He was extremely. He said to me, "Please, can someone taste those croissants? Because they always sit there." I'm not going to be one, but I'm going to let you do that.
But while you eat,
I'm going to let you do that.
I can ask: is it business or is it pleasure?
Well, you know, when you start to get to the level that we've got to. It becomes a bit of both, really. You know, we've obviously raised the stakes as far as we're concerned, probably not on the global picture. We're still a very small outfit, globally speaking. You mentioned those numbers, and I think the Racing Post did a cover. I mean, how long have you been in the game?
Doing this job? Maybe
doing racing and
22, 23 years?
22, 23 years, and you probably would have never seen the Racing Post or any other outfit mention Godolphin spend at the sale, Coolmore spend at the sale, Juddmonte spend at the sale. So they have, you know, the general media and public have taken not general media, because racing really doesn't have general media coverage to that extent as we do in football. But the racing media is obviously taken a negative stance towards us. Slightly.
Do you think it's negative, or do you think it's fascinated?
I think
curious. Here's a guy who's slightly different. What do we know about him? What don't we know about him?
I think how you would normally play that is to say, okay, here's Amo, where, you know, the Racing Post did an article, which was quite absurd the other day, because in 25 years, you've never seen one done for any other company. Now, I thought personally it was very interesting. I actually discovered where all my horses were. So I was like, this is great. I actually got my own knowledge out of it.
So you found
I actually think that
uncomfortable that you were being. Did you feel you were being scrutinised?
No. I think there should be a little bit of a balance in the game. So I think, you know, the one thing I've found in racing, which I have never found in any other sport, because I come from football, so it's very different. There is no secrets in football.
Really?
Nothing gets hidden. Nothing gets swept under the carpet anymore.
Okay.
90% of the truth in racing gets swept under the carpet.
Go on.
You know, people in racing don't want the truth to come out. Even this morning, I had a call from one trainer who had spoken to my bloodstock agent and said, "Oh, please, don't go out there and throw anyone under the bus. Don't tell this, don't tell that." It's a sign of the times that racing has always been the kind of sport that the public see it in one view, but the reality is a different view. As an example, I think that racing has a really difficult industry for young people. Very difficult industry for young people. Amongst the youngsters now that I've been deeper and deeper into it, alcohol, drugs is a huge problem of people who are working in the industry. A lot of those youngsters don't get the opportunity in life. So many rehab cases, so many non-rehab cases. And we had this in the 80s in football with Diego Maradona, George Best, who were having those tremendous problems, and then they would be swept under the rug because they were needed on the big days. And no one really helped them. But time has shown us that those guys, George Best died at 59. Diego Maradona died at 60. Wonderful, wonderful guy, Diego. You know, I knew him personally. He's taken pictures of my son. He's been with my son. He's been to my home. No one really wanted to help him.
But you feel
the industry.
You feel this is a part of a wider culture within the industry of not looking itself in the mirror.
Correct.
As regards what
Correct.
kind of sport
Correct.
industry it is.
Correct. It doesn't. The industry doesn't want to expose anything. You have some wonderful, wonderful people, some amazing trainers, Charlie Appleby, Aidan O'Brien, and with ultimate standards, high morals, and win after win after win, and you have to respect them and you admire them for what they've done and what they've achieved. You have some wonderful jockeys like William Buick, Ryan Moore. I'll put Rossa and David Egan into that category, who stand on very high morals and extremely high, very well respected in the industry. And then you also have on the other side of your, well, again, you have trainers that just turn a blind eye. And yet,
When you say turn a blind eye, what do you mean?
Turn a blind eye. If they have a person that's troubled, problematic, you have one of the biggest trainers in the country today who will sit and talk about, who will come across in excellent, and people think, oh, what a wonderful trainer he is, and he is a wonderful trainer, and he's a very good man. But he turns a blind eye to the industry. He turns a blind eye to the fact that he has a troubled soul in his yard, and he doesn't want to help that person get better. And so he just fuels that, pumps him back on a horse, carries on going. What happens to that guy who's a very, very, very good guy? I love that.
Talking about a jockey.
Yeah, I love that jockey. I think he's a great guy. What happens to him when he's 45? What happens to him when he's 50? You guys are all just right. Oh, such a shame. So-and-so passed away from an alcohol, and we always knew he was troubled. But what's happened today? Who's helping them today?
So you think that the industry is enabling?
And one of those things is that people don't want to know the truth. They don't want people to tell the truth. There's no owners like us right now, because we're your just day-to-day person. We work. We're not from a different racing world. I don't have a problem to tell the truth about those things, and it's not often seen. You mentioned earlier that, you know, he's had lots of trainers, lots of jockeys. I haven't had lots of jockeys. I've had 3 jockeys.
I had sort of few.
I had Ross Ryan, who's still part of my family and very close. I had Kevin Stott, who I had a 1-year contract with him.
Didn't you meet him on this show?
No, actually, I met him for the first time on this show, yeah, when I walked in, yeah, but he'd ridden for me. Actually, he was riding for George Bowie at the time, and George Bowie had spoken about him. I had a 1-year contract with him, and the contract ran out. And I've had David Egan, who I adore, and I think is a fantastic guy.
So let's try and tie up these two themes, because you talk about values you admire in people, and particularly through the lens of the way that you've looked at sports people. And I'd imagine an awful lot of that is through your experience with players initially in Brazil, who are famed for kind of work ethic. Tell me which trainers that have trained for you do admire, and what you think they do well. What do you want as an owner?
I mean, I got to tell you, like, my list has never changed. Michael Bell, David Simcock, my first 2 trainers, and
sacked and rehired.
Never sacked.
Okay.
never.
Just on the
Never.
bench? Or bench?
No, never benched. I've always had horses with them.
Okay.
Michael and I fell out for, not even fell out, we had a funny moment for about 2 minutes, but we always had a horse with him. Never. I don't think there was a day that I haven't had a horse with Michael. And Michael and David Simcock, who I've known from the beginning, amazing morals, amazing people. Really, probably the reason I'm still in the industry. Younger trainers, well, I won't say younger, but other trainers like Carl Burke, Richard Fahey, George Bowie, George, I call him George Take Your Time Scott.
Why?
He won't like that, but he likes to be patient with the horses. But that's a great benefit.
Well, some of the ones you've bought, at Tats,
Yeah.
book one, you're going to have to be quite patient
Yeah.
with, I would have thought, looking at those pedigrees. You don't mind that? You don't mind the patience if you spend
no.
4 or 5 million
Absolutely
on one?
not.
You're happy to wait a couple of years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can speak to the trainers about that. I mean, I actually don't give them any hard time. I actually don't call them very often. Just if it's a bit of banter, I like calling Richard Hannon because it's always good to.
You have a bit of sport with it.
It's good to get a little bit off your chest, but he never talks about horses.
Yeah. So that really brings me, but that key really rather brings me back to my first question, which I don't think we've really got to the bottom of. I've seen you having a lot of fun. I've also seen you spending a lot of money, but I can't work out what the drive is. Is the driver your personal pleasure, or is the driver to make this something that is commercially viable, or are you trying to ride both horses?
So, as I said to you from the first day, I'm a sports person, right?
Would you describe yourself as a sports nut?
I am a sports nut, yeah.
So you like sport for sport's sake?
Yeah, I love it.
It's not just money.
We fly all around the world to watch NBA, NFL. I've been to almost, I went to maybe 14 NFL games last year. I've been to dozens of NBA games. Football is obviously my number one passion. And right from here, I'm going to go up to Nottingham to watch the Nottingham-Chelsea game because that's the decider of let's say, the Champions European and Conference League, which I think, so watching sport and being involved in sport is something that I absolutely adore. Racing has always been a passion since 2003, as I said to you.
So how did
I love the animals.
Who first got you?
I love the horses.
Who first got you in? Or did you just wander into somebody's yard or whatever and say, can I buy a horse?
Well, if I told you who I first got in, I'd tell you who ripped me off. So I'm not going to...
Oh, no, OK, but who suggested you should have a horse then?
So it was actually who suggested I should have a horse? It was a very good friend of mine who has had horses all his life, a man called Peter Wani. And he had, of course, Redback and...
Yes, Peter and Arjun Wani, yeah.
Peter and Arjun. He had Redback and now he's going to kill me now. I forgot the name of the other horses, but he had some wonderful horses, and we actually bought a couple of horses together and first had success together, and that was sort of my first love of horses. And then, of course, in the industry of football, a lot of the managers were very horse people. They love horses. I love the animal. I love horses. My whole family loves horses. We are extremely, honored and proud to be a part of the racing world. I love it.
Do you like the scene? Even though you've made some really important comments about the way the industry conducts itself, do you enjoy the scene? Do you enjoy being a part of that sort of the social fabric of it all?
Don't get me wrong. What I was talking to you about, the side effects of the industry.
I understood it
every
very well.
sport has it. Every sport has it.
But you're talking
every
about,
sport has had it.
How well or otherwise it's addressed.
I just think today, for example, in football, if you had a person that was arrested, if you had a person that was troubled or done for drink driving or like Gibbs White was on the back of all the newspapers because his license was banned for speeding, or for example, or that kind of situation.
Yeah.
You know, we are much more open, whereby I'm not saying that the industry has its flaws, but it has its beauties.
Yeah.
You know.
So what are those?
You know, Royal Ascot,
what are the things?
Saratoga.
What is it about the flame that draws the moth?
The flame that draws the moth in
horse racing. What is it? What is it that makes you?
I think it's like what everybody loves. It's the adrenaline of the race. You know, when you're getting there to the final point, when you're watching these horses throughout the period, working. You know, you go up to the gallops, you watch them work, you see how they're developing, the development stages have gone, and then you get to the big day, such as Royal Ascot Champions Day, or Champions Day at Ascot, or Royal Ascot, or, you know, you get to Goodwood, or you get to York, you get to Saratoga, Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
When you get to those big scenes, and you follow those, you know, the lifeline of that horse all the way through, the trainer, the things that it's gone through, and you get there, the adrenaline, the energy, the buzz, the crowds.
You are an addict.
You become an addict of horses, yeah.
Are you
become a sports addict?
Are you an addict? No.
I'm definitely a sports addict.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you addicted to spending money in the sales ring?
That's different. No. So, look,
how impulsive have you been, and how strategic is it?
Look, if we have to, we had to make a decision.
Be honest, because you've been preaching honesty. So
yeah,
be honest.
Absolutely. So we had to make a decision. We had to make a decision of whether we were going to stay on a level where we were.
Yeah.
Trying to buy horses of lesser pedigrees, of lesser values, and keep trying to find one sort of, you know, needle in a haystack, or if we were going to try to create a breeding operation, a stallion operation, a training operation to compete. If you're going to create a breeding operation, you know, one of the most amazing outcomes, and you know, congratulations to Godolphin for that incredible weekend they had, where they had 3 homebred horses win, you know, the Derby,
Kentucky Oaks,
and the Guineas. That is what you strive for. And, you know, Sheikh Mohammed has put in millions and millions and millions into the business. He deserves it, because he deserves that success, because he's put in so much in. He's put in a lot of time and a lot of effort. And what has happened is, the result is that he's now got his homebreds who are champions.
So are you prepared to put in a 40 stretch then? A 40-year stretch to achieve?
And Coolmore have done it differently. Coolmore are a much bigger group of people.
And goes back further.
And it goes back deeper and further. So we, and they've done an incredible job, you know. They've done it's another fantastic organization that you can't, you know, there's nothing you can say about those two organizations other than you look up to them, admire them, and you want to be them.
So is your ultimate goal then for it to be Coolmore, Godolphin, Amo? Is that the thing? Is that your dream?
I mean, you know,
is that a personal dream?
You know, there's other people like Juddmonte, etc.
I know that, but obviously they operate. But they operate to. They even Juddmonte, who might yet win all 3 Group 1s this weekend in Ireland, even Juddmonte operate to scale.
Sure, we are forced to operate to scale.
But I'm trying to work out what scale you're trying to operate
to. But we're forced to operate in a scale as well. So yes, we went big in the sales. We still weren't the biggest buyers. I'm still waiting for, hopefully, the Racing Post to be more balanced and let us know what everyone else's horses are.
For someone who's, I know, is broad-shouldered enough to take a bit of ribbing.
Oh, I can take the ribbing. Somebody said to me yesterday, I won't mention who, he said, you take a lot of ribbing, but like I always say, it's good that I take the ribbing, because then at least it means no one else has to.
Sure.
I'm okay to take the ribbing.
I'm fine with that.
You're
very easy to access. But I can see it's annoying you. So I can.
Oh, it's not annoying me.
You're being a bit chippy about these bits in the Racing Post.
No. I'm not being chippy.
And all it is, you see, as I say, it's a fascination. If somebody comes along and spends a ton of money, and it's a particularly British fascination, isn't it? You know that people are always intrigued by someone who comes along with a load of money. They always want to know, where's the money from? Why is he spending it? What's he doing here?
Yeah.
And what are his goals?
So, my life is not a secret. I'm in the most public domain there could be.
Yeah.
I live in England. I work in sports.
Yeah. And virtually every transaction in your football life has been
is public.
Yeah.
And I'm not chippy at all.
I'm not saying you are.
Don't get me wrong.
I'm just saying about this. We all have our little things that annoy us.
What I think is correct, and what I think is correct in all kinds of sports, is if you write about Manchester City spend and you criticize Manchester United spend and you discuss about Liverpool spend,
then do it to everybody.
Do it to everybody and show the success.
So everyone needs that. Everyone needs that level of audit.
What does the football? So what do you give the public if you only talk about one group? Why not say, okay, this is what Amo spent, this is what they spent, this is what they spent, this is what they spent, and then judge us at the end of the season.
Do you think?
And say, well, yeah, Amo did this. Was it successful or was it a failure?
Do you think you're a bit of an easy target?
Well, of course I am.
Low-hanging fruit.
Of course I am. Of course I am. And that's okay. You know, I don't mind being an easy target. But at the same time that they make me an easy target, then they have to be ready to hear the truth.
Okay.
And that's what really upsets me. In fact, one of the things I want to tell you is that on the way here, I was thinking hard and I've decided that, you know, we as owners should have a charity that we should set up to help the young people in the sport who have hit difficulties.
So you think do you think it should be a mandatory levy on owners?
Well, I'm definitely going to set up a charity for that.
Well, there is. I mean, we have
for our own.
So racing welfare is really struggling for funds at the moment.
Racing welfare, I don't know enough
really
about
struggling.
it, and I should know more about it.
I mean,
but I want to make sure that the money goes directly
to But you're talking about a charity that is set up to support racing's workforce, specifically to support racing's workforce, and nobody is obliged to make any contribution to it at all. And like all charities at the moment, it is, you know, not as well endowed as it ought to be. I wonder whether ideas like yours could be put to good use in their service.
Maybe. I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about the organisation. I don't know enough about the people who run it, and I don't know where the money goes into. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about a very specific area of the sport.
Yeah.
Because I've seen.
But you're talking about.
I've seen an addiction issue.
Addiction?
I've seen an addiction issue that is not publicised. Mm-hmm. You, and I say you all because I'm sorry, because you're part of the general media.
Yeah.
You all hide from it. You don't actually pull anyone up on it. You know, if a guy is, and the public don't know the truth. Yeah. Why am I an easy target? Because I'll take an action on something, and people look at me and think, he's taking that action because he's
impulsive,
he doesn't understand, he's this, he's that. He doesn't know, they don't know half of the truth. And we're not allowed to speak half the truth because racing has this moral code that in front of the television, you look like you are the moral, beautiful, representation
you remain
of
upstanding.
Life. But I'm not allowed to come and say, oh, by the way, the reason why I took away this horse is because of Y,
because the horse had done a leg and the trainer hadn't told me, for example.
Or, you know, or wouldn't have been just that horse, but it would have been, I've had several incidences throughout the year. This is what's happened, this is what happened. Or the reason that this particular jockey is not riding for me is because I have seen several incidences and perhaps maybe I think the jockey needs help rather than rather than close my eyes and throw him back on a horse the next day.
And oftentimes, you and I might have had a conversation about it, and you've gone, and then you'll go, do you know what? It's not worth it. I don't really want to tell you why I fired X or took horses away from Y or whatever. One of your greatest moments, I mean, I dare say you're King of Steel winning the Champion Stakes, was
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
A special day.
Absolutely.
For all sorts of reasons. And then it all went sour with Roger Varian. Why did it go sour?
Let me tell you something. Roger is a fantastic person. He really is. He is one of those people that I put up on my high moral values.
No one's going to disagree with that.
Okay, he's a fantastic person. Fantastic family. Hanneke, the kids. 3 wonderful kids. Beautiful looking kids. I have no issues with Roger. And actually, he's my neighbor now, so I have to actually be even nicer, because I might need a pot of coffee from him. But Roger and I had a year...
He's just planted some more Leylandia to make sure he can't see it.
No, Roger and I had a year with a lot of bad luck.
Yeah.
A Night of Thunder 2-year-old that cost about 600,000.
Yeah. And then King of Steel went wrong.
Yeah, died on the gallops. Ornalaya...
But he didn't, sorry, the 2-year-old did,
yeah, the 2-year-old died. Ornalaya, my group, Group 1 placed filly. She burst the blood vessel and bled before the Guineas. And then it was just bad luck after bad luck after bad luck. And then the ultimate was King of Steel before the big race, and he he'd had his injury and then had to be retired to stud. And sometimes when you're just on a bad luck moment, you just have to say, well, okay, maybe it's just not working out right now. Maybe in the future it'll work out, but right now it's not working out. So you just have to take a break, because you just can't keep going. I'm having that kind of bad luck with another very big trainer right now, and I'm hoping that that's going to turn the bend. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to. But it doesn't mean.
I think he's terrified.
But it doesn't mean that I'm going to take away the horses.
You wouldn't be the first owner to sack a trainer on this show, by the way.
No. By the way, I'm not sacking him at all. I actually like him very much, and he's.
Well, I know, but you say this about all these people. You still like them, but you can separate professional and personal.
Yeah, I actually.
And I think I've had my eureka moment half an hour into the interview. Isn't this the point? That you're someone who can shake someone's hand and have a laugh with them, and then the next minute say, oh, by the way, the horses are going down the road. And you see no issue with that, because you've always been able to separate the personal and the professional. And I think, coming back to your original point about racing being a society of enablers and how we're all in this kind of social mix together, and so we're always, hail fellow, well met, and keeping up appearances. Actually, the issue is that you're fine with saying one thing to this guy and then sacking him the next minute, because you see the two things as totally different. Whereas racing is all actually part of a great melting pot where we all have to kind of.
Well, first of all, I think the word sacking is incorrect, because I've never sacked anybody.
Well, you know what I mean. Take the horse somewhere else.
Well, yes, but you say that, and then somebody, and then that's kind of like sticks on you.
I'm trying to see it from your point.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it sticks on you. When they go,
this isn't a criticism.
No.
I think it's different. It's looking at this through a different lens, isn't it? It's looking at it through a lens of someone who's been involved in the business of professional sport in a different capacity. And I think these all come back to the same thing. We still haven't really answered the initial question: is it fun or is it business? And what is it? Do you need to be making money out of this within X many years, or?
So one thing I will tell you, on all the younger trainers that we have today, and including Carl Burke and Richard Fahey, who are not younger,
they'll be pleased.
Who are younger, but not. When we have conversations, sometimes you say this horse is just not working out.
Yeah.
Richard Fahey, who I have quite a few horses with. There was a horse at Michael Bell's that went to Richard Fahey's, didn't work at Michael Bell's, went to Richard Fahey's, didn't work at Richard Fahey's. We just couldn't get her right for one reason or another. Brought her back to Freemason, and 2 weeks later, won. First person that sent me congratulations was Richard Fahey.
Yeah.
And we have this great autonomy, because we say it's not about moving, you're not moving your champion Group 1 horse, you're moving those horses that are on the fringe and below, and you're thinking, this is not working. Why would you put Carl Burke, Rafe Beckett, Richard Hannon into a situation where they're going to have to run a 0 to 60 horse, for example? Wouldn't you be better off with those George Berwigs, George Scotts? Wouldn't you be better off with those guys to have the better horses? And when you have a yard like Freemason, put those lesser horses there that, one, from a cost point of view, cost you far less. Two, you're not wasting their time on trying to make a 0 to 60 horse into something it's not, because it's not going to be.
But that will upset a lot of people, won't they?
No one's going to make it run faster.
He's bought this historic yard on the Bury Road, Freemason Lodge, Sir Michael Stout, Noel Merlis, etc., for all those years, and he's loading it up with his lame, sick and lazies.
Not loading it up, but we have 98 boxes there. Yeah. We can put 30 horses there that are not at the top level. We have top-level horses there. We have a Camelot that we bought. We have Havana Grey that we bought. We have Wootton Bassets.
So when's the stud farm coming?
Next year.
Have you got one lined up?
No.
You had a go at Dullingham.
It just
wasn't. It didn't work.
Great setup. Steve had done an incredible job there.
Steve Parkin.
Yeah, he's done an incredible job there. You know, you can tell because Fabienne, his daughter, is obviously very passionate about it. They'd put a lot of their heart and soul into it. But it just maybe was, you know, the wrong place, the wrong time for us. It was a little bit small. Mm-hmm. We couldn't really think about the fact that, you know, how do we house our mares? A lot of our mares are based in Ireland. Do we now have to ship them across, breed, ship them back? Or do we keep them here? Then we need more land. We were building Freemason. You know, everything was happening too fast. We didn't have enough staff to probably deal with the situation as well. We couldn't quite get to the same valuation numbers at the time. So I'm happy that he managed to sell to Yulong. But I think we'd look for something slightly different, slightly bigger.
Now, you are very much the public face of this. It really is just you. It's Kia Joorabchian. You're taking the whole lot on those shoulders, right? So you often say we. Now, you need investment. Even someone with your means needs a lot of investment to keep this thing sustained. And obviously, Mr. Marinakis, who is the Nottingham Forest man, was helping you out a lot last year. Is that the kind of model going forward, that you're there as the principal, you put a lot of your own investment in, and then you bring in investment from other people of significant means to try and keep this thing where you need it?
I mean, I started it from scratch, from zero. But when I say we, I now have a huge team around me. You know, a lot of that team is in Freemason, a lot of that team is at Amo Racing. That team is extremely important. I've inherited some wonderful people from Sir Michael Stout, who are working at Freemason. I've inherited some wonderful people from Robson, who've come across from
Robson
Ireland.
yeah.
And then, of course, Robson and his team, a part of a we.
And you got your buying team.
And I got a buying team who are shaking a little bit right now, but they're good. They've always been. They've been my team from the beginning.
How hard is it?
So I can't really.
How hard is it to be your bloodstock agent?
Well, the thing is
how hard is it
know
when one of yours runs, when your 1.75 million breeze up purchase actually runs quite well in fourth because all the front three look like good horses, but you know everyone goes, oh look at it, he's spent $1.5 million on that, it's no good, it's run up the track. What do you think? And do you then take it out on? Do you kick the dog then?
Well, you obviously kick the dog, which is your foot. you smash something.
Yeah. But I mean,
you smash something. But no, I mean, you can't judge a horse by its first run. No. First and foremost, you know that better than anyone.
But if you have a few judged, do you then?
You can't judge. First of all, the stock that we bought this year, you can only judge us at the end of next season. Everything that we bought, you can't judge us this year. That's why we went to the Craven and boosted a little bit. Otherwise, you know, we were lacking early 2-year-olds, you know. And one thing I told all of my trainers, you know, I was up at the Johnsons last week after York and at Carl Burke's, and I said to them, take your time with as much time as you want.
Because they got some nice
you don't, there's no rush. I said the same thing to Beckett, please take your time. Although, don't take too much of your time. You've got to be careful not to take too much of your time with Beckett. She said, take your time, no rush. Because we knew that we were buying deep pedigrees.
Yeah.
And those deep pedigrees goes back to what I was trying to say earlier, is that we are trying to build our profile of broodmares so that therefore, slowly, in 4, 5, 6 years' time, we can compete with the homebreds. Does
your Nottingham Forest man, who I don't know very well at all, does he need a return? Does he say to you, Keir, look, if I'm going to invest, I don't know, a few million in you, look, I need you to deliver.
Look, we are compiling a group of investors behind us.
Yeah.
And that group of investors is extremely happy with what we are doing.
Okay.
We are constantly giving updates because I know as an owner how I like to get updates, you know.
You're taking a lot of pressure on yourself, aren't you?
I'd love to invite you one day to Freemason because I want you to see what the guys, and this is...
Invitation accepted.
And this is not, I don't take any credit on the rebuild of Freemason. This is my team. What they have done in Freemason, the speed at which they've done it, you know, and the amount, yes, we've spent a lot of money redoing it, but, you know, the yard looks absolutely incredible.
I want to bring Eve and Jonathan back in for the end of the programme. We've also got some lovely footage of Field of Gold getting off the box and onto the plane to come back to England, which I want to show you as well, because I think you'll enjoy that. But I want you to tell me, just in a few short sentences, what makes 2025 a success by Amo Racing? What can the Racing Post, and not just them, the TDN and us and my podcast, whatever else, what can we say at the end of the year to judge Amo Racing on?
2025, our shoulders have to be really broad.
Mm-hmm. All right, 2020, end of 2026. I'll give you a backstop.
We're going to take a lot of hits, and that's okay, because we know what we're doing. As long as we and our investors understand that we did not go into a sales ring in October to pull out 10 two-year-old winners in May. Mm-hmm. We did that 4 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, we were winning every two-year-old race up until Royal Ascot.
I need you with one in the Dewhurst.
And Royal Ascot?
A good one in the Dewhurst.
We crashed.
Good one in the National Stakes. Good one in the Burton Futurity.
Right.
Freudian slip in the Futurity.
Now, we got one in the Belmont Stakes.
Indeed, which one? Chad Brown. And you've got Outfielder, who broke the 2-year-old all-time track record at Churchill Downs this week, going to the Norfolk Stakes.
He's going to the Norfolk Stakes, or maybe the Coventry Stakes.
Okay.
I know Wesley said Norfolk, but we're weighing up both options.
Okay.
And we don't want to let anyone off the hook.
Okay, so watch your bets, basically, is what you're saying.
So, and we have several. I mean, we have several very, very good horses at Freemason. We've got a couple. We've got 2 very good horses with Richard, the Nando Parada filly, Indigo Dawn, that you saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you asked him, is it all roads to Royal Ascot? And he said...
I did. He said, I'm not sure whether she's Ascot filly. I said, I am, because she's running in purple.
Yeah, he called me up. He said, are we going to Ascot? I said, yes. He said, OK, then, thanks.
Yeah, well, you know he'll never mind that.
Yeah, he loves that anyway. He loves that. He knows it's going to Royal Ascot. Well, if she's in good shape, we have the Coronation with You Got To Me, which we're very looking forward to. And I think Wraith has a very good filly called Cathedral. Yep. There's a couple of deeper horses there as well at Wraiths. You know, the ones, you know, Carl has 2 or 3 very good horses of ours, which he really likes, which will come out probably right after Royal Ascot.
Okay.
Charlie has a Dubawi and a Frankel that are, you know, in great shape as well, to come out probably just after Royal Ascot. So we are looking very much forward to a year where hopefully some of those deeper pedigree horses start to come out and then improve, and then next year we hit the ground running.
All right. Well, I think we've got a good idea now how you can and wish to be judged. I thank you for some very interesting and enlightening remarks about the state of the sport as a whole. I know you're going to stay with us for just a second. We're going to take a break. When you rejoin us, Eve and Jonathan will be back, and we'll be showing you Field of Gold, getting on the plane to come home.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.